Hello, everybody. This is Aston Osai, Superintendent of St. Louis Park Public Schools, and you're listening to the Share the Mic podcast, the show that explores what connects our school community, who we are as individuals, and who we are as a collective. Through conversations with students, staff, and community members, we'll talk about what brings us joy, our hopes and dreams, and our connection to our strategic plan for racial equity transformation. Well, thank you all so much for spending time with me today. When I saw this on the calendar, knowing that I was going to have an opportunity to sit down with the both of you, my heart was just overjoyed and filled with excitement. I hope that I've expressed to you the appreciation that I have for both of you as educators, as human beings, and as people that influence our students on a daily basis. For our audience, and I'm certainly going to allow them to introduce themselves here shortly, but I am just honored and thrilled to be spending time with Dr. Stephens and Mr. Abdul Wright. And they both actually share a unique distinction that very few people in public education in the state of Minnesota get a chance to receive. They both are former Minnesota Teachers of the Year. And I just want to start off by saying congratulations for that honor, because I know how hard that is just in general, but to be Black Minnesota Teachers of the Year, it makes it even more challenging. And just based a little bit on some of the research I've done, right, like there's only in the history ever been 5, Black Minnesota Teachers of the Year. And here in St. Louis Park, right, we have the two of you and Jess Davis, who I believe was the 2019 Minnesota Teacher of the Year. Abdul, I think you were 2016, and Leanne, you were 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And actually before you got the award, I think it was like the 90s, right? Before somebody else got the award. So thank you, first and foremost, for being educators and for influencing the hearts and minds and the learning of our students. And what I would like to start off with, if you would be willing, is just to hear from you all about why you choose to be a teacher. Why do you come every single day here to St. Louis Park Public Schools? Because what I know about the both of you is that you all are extremely talented. Pretty much anything you want to do professionally, you could, but you chose to be an educator. So I would love to just hear more about why you chose to go into this profession.
Thank you for that. I chose to become an educator because of my lived experience. Think that everything for me comes back to how I grew up, the trials and tribulations I endured as a child and my family endured, and the opportunities I got as a result of being in education. Coming from Chicago, going to Chicago public schools, and then coming here, living out of Mary's Place, going to a Minneapolis public high school, exposed to 2 different coaches because I was in advanced placement classes for some classes and then general ed classes for others. Struggling through that experience because of the lack of belief that I had in myself, but knowing that I enjoyed school. Going to community college because I felt like I needed to get out the city, to get away from everything that I was surrounded by, and I knew that I'd become a product of my environment. I was still at a point in my own lack of self-worth where I was easily influenced by the environment versus being someone who influenced the environment. And then just seeing the people who cared for me. In high school, I had a history teacher by the name of Mr. Matthew Boucher. In community college, I didn't have a teacher necessarily, but it was adopted parents, basically, by the name of Kim Soderholm and Jim Soderholm. And then when I went to Concordia, I had professors who, when I was staying in my car trying to do my student teaching, was willing to give me bus cards and money just so I could make it through. And I knew then that I wanted to be able to give other young people who come from marginalized communities, who represent identities and who come from the same type of environment that I come from, an opportunity. And I know that education opened doors, and it opened doors for me. And it created and cultivated space for me to believe in who I was and grow into that. And I wanted to be a part of changing the trajectory of young people's lives.
Oh, that's beautiful. I appreciate that.
That is beautiful. So for me, being a teacher wasn't anything that I grew up even thinking about. it was actually a second career for me. So I started off as an associate buyer for a major department store company. And I remember I was doing a tutoring program at my church on Wednesdays. And I found myself like so excited about going to this tutoring program. I was actually coordinating it. And I found myself so excited about being there. And so one time so it was kind of like under the guidance of University of Minnesota. And they would come by and visit the sites. And so when they had come to our site, one day I asked them, like, if I were interested in going into teaching, like, what do I need to do? And they told me that a post-baccalaureate program at the University of Minnesota. And so, because I found myself being kind of like just, I don't know if I had an epiphany at the age of 26, but I remember sitting in my cubicle and thinking, who is going to remember me for picking out the right dress to put in the store for somebody to buy? I started thinking like what I was doing was like pretty superficial. And I thought if I were to go into teaching, I could impact lives. And that like somebody then would remember me for doing something that's very meaningful. And so that's how I ended up getting into teaching. I feel like it like caught me or chose me, I guess. And I have never regretted it and never looked back. So it's really a profession that I value. And I know I hear a lot of like, oh, it's such a noble profession. But it really is, I think, one of the most valuable, most important professions because you are impacting the lives of human beings and literally changing the trajectory of some of their lives. And, that has happened. I've seen that. And so that's why I stay.
No, that's powerful. And the theme that I heard in both of you sharing, and Leanne, you just ended with that, right? There's this conviction that I hear in both of your voices and just this passion around positively impacting the lives of students, like really wanting to change the trajectory of their life and knowing how powerful education is as a tool to help them do that. So I just want to thank you for that because I want you to hear me say that I know for a fact on a daily basis, both of you are doing what you set out to do. And as I shared earlier, education, whatever it is, just the level of brilliance that both of you possess, you could do anything, right? You've chosen to be educators, which I'm grateful for, and I know our school community is grateful for, and the state of Minnesota is grateful for. And what I'm wondering is that knowing how brilliant you are, you could be an educator anywhere. Why do you choose to be an educator here in St. Louis Park Public Schools? Because you could teach anywhere. You all are at the highest demand of teachers in the state, but you choose to teach here. Why do you stay here, right? Because and here's the thing, I knew of you before I got here, and when I got here, everything that you are actually better than what I heard, right? Of Abdul, I knew of you, right? And I had the chance to sit on different panels with you, and your reputation is exceptional, right? So I know that if you put a resume in anywhere, you're getting selected. But why did you stay here, and why did you come here, right?
So I stay here really because I'm able to do the work that is so passionate. And that is so ingrained with me. Like I'm able to really live out being an anti-racist educator. And I mean, not that everything's not perfect, but just with my experience and with, some of the honors and stuff that I've gotten, I've been able to travel a lot and see a lot of other school districts and talk to a lot of other teachers from other districts. And I'm not really hearing that they have the same permission or even the same responsibility that we have here to be anti-racist educators. And so that's one of the reasons why I stay. And I also say because I'm able to develop anti-racist leaders and our students. And so that's what brings me joy, like every single day, being able to interact with them and see their commitment and be able to help them continue to live out even what they believe is important about anti-racism. And so that's the big reason why I stayed.
It's powerful. It's powerful. And I know when you were awarded Minnesota Teacher of the Year, you received that here in St. Louis Park, right? And Abdul, you in 2016, Leanne was giving me more of the background, right? So not only were you the first black male Minnesota Teacher of the Year, right? You were the first Minnesota Teacher of the Year from a charter school as well, right, at Best Academy. So you've had a chance to experience different school districts across the state. What drew you to St. Louis Park?
Dr. Stephens. I mean, I wouldn't be here. Like, it took a lot. Like, this is not where I ever envisioned myself being. I think I carried with certainty identity that I wanted to stay in North Minneapolis. I was going to be in the hood. I was going to stay in the hood. The reason I even ended up at the charter school that I chose was because it was across the street from the homeless shelter that we lived in when we first moved here. That's literally it. I didn't know the distinction between charter schools, public schools, private schools. I just wanted to be where the kids who lived the life similar to me, were. And when it was time for me to decide that, like, to be real, the school I was at prior to here, it wasn't conducive to me having any type of joy. And I'm at a point in my life, my own personal life, where I deserve that. I'm worthy of that. And it takes a lot to get to a place in life where you go from just having confidence, but to like truly believing in your own sense of self-worth. And when you get there, it requires the letting go of a lot. And a part of that journey for me was the realization that I had to let go of an environment that wasn't conducive to who I was becoming and the things that I wanted or the things I want for myself as I presently know to want them. And I knew that I needed to leave, and I was never somebody that thought like I would ever leave or quit anything. But you get to a point where you have to let go of certainty and be clear. And I think the thing that I was clear on is that I'll never stay in an environment and have to leave myself again. And so when I made that decision to leave, I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was talking with Dr. Stephens. I was doing an event in Philly, and I hit her up, and she was like, let me do something real quick. Hold off before you do anything. And the interview process was incredibly well. And then I got here, and every day it's just been an affirmation of where I'm supposed to be. I have a dope principal, empathic. I have a dope assistant principals. My team on that floor is incredible, all doing right by the babies. I get to be with Dr. Stephens. Like, I don't really, talk with you much during the time that I've been here, but I see you all the time here. Like, I'll be on the phone with somebody and I see you parking early, and I'll be like, our superintendent on campus is like, he comes to the school, like, is his office there? I'm like, you would think that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have that. And that level of competency and joy in which we trying to give these young people. And it was a realization that they all deserve it. I've only always been in all black schools. And to be in a school with diversity where I'm teaching white kids and I'm interacting with white families, that's something that's so foreign to me. I never thought that I wanted that, but I'm seeing like, I truly, truly have a different appreciation for understanding, like, I always thought I could serve anybody, but knowing that I'm here for them too, and they're here for me, and they give me joy, all of my students, all of them. I walk in this building every day, as corny as it sounds, smiling, happy, like every day. And I haven't had that amount of joy in this work in so long. And so it's just a reminder that you have to choose spaces where you can show up as your authentic self and cultivate joy. And I'm able to do that here. And if I wasn't, I definitely wouldn't be doing this podcast, and I wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Doctor.
I was going to say, because he and I had similar experiences with the same charter school. And so I was able to really relate to what he was going through. And that literally was the only job I ever quit, but I found that everything that I believed about teaching was being sucked out of me. And the joy that I'm so used to experiencing, I wasn't experiencing that anymore. And then I knew that it was time for me to go as well.
I'm recovering from a surgery that I had on my head. And one of the things that I just kept thinking about was like, I hope they learning. I hope they in this building learning the time that I'm out. And then even when I'm here, like one of the students wrote like a little note, like we got to take care of Mr. AB's plants while he's gone. You know what I'm saying? And I come back and they really took care of the plants and they wrote little signs on the board. And I really enjoy the staff, the community, the people. I have a deep appreciation for it because I've seen and experienced a lot of different places. I've been in education for now 12 years. And this reminds me of like the beginning, that joy, that excitement.
I want to stick with that for a second because there were a couple of things that you shared, and I hope I get this right, but I think I heard you say something along the lines that you would never, ever again stay in a place where you have to leave yourself. Right. And then, you coupled that with this idea of joy. And Leanne, I heard you talking about this idea of joy. Right now in public education, I would say nationally, it's not a day I can't turn on the news. Right. And there's conversations about teacher burnout, staff burnout, people feeling stressed, people being overwhelmed. And I believe those things to be true. Right. Because there's a lot being placed on our shoulders as educators, particularly on you all's shoulders as teachers, to meet all of the ever-growing needs of students, right, that they bring with them every single day. As you think about that, everything that is occurring in education and the stress and the pressure, and I think both of you already kind of leaned into this, but how do you stay centered around this idea of joy that you all are describing? Because that's got to be hard, right? To come in every day with a smile, knowing how hard this work is.
It's so interesting too, because any job, to me, I believe any job comes with its own set of issues and complications, and teaching's not easy. You're dealing with various human beings, and I think who are trying to also find their way and their place in the world, right? And so, but the joy that I have when I get to come and see this, no matter, like I could leave my house and be in a bad mood, but as soon as I walk in the building and I hear Dr. Stephens, good morning or whatever, it changes for me. And so, because our students, like my student, like they depend on my consistency. They depend on my showing up for them every single day. And I find myself able to be the most authentic with them, the most real. And I think that's another thing that gives me joy, that with them, I'm not leaving any pieces of myself anywhere. I'm showing up in my full humanity, but also honoring their humanity as well. And I think also being able to build a community where I'm not in charge, but I believe so much in collectivism and how we learn from each other. And so I bring that, I believe, to the classroom. And it's like, I learn from you, we learn from each other. There are non-negotiables, though. I will not negotiate on respect. Like, we gonna respect one another in this space. But I think they're the ones who, like, the reason I step, and I tell them, I'm like, you're the reason I step into this building every single day, is because of the students.
I resonate with everything that Dr. Stephens just said. So I took a second to process that on my own. I ensure that I have joy by making sure that, like, my email account isn't connected to my phone.
I need to do that, I think.
But you probably can't. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I can. I'm able to have joy in the sense of understanding what are the healthy boundaries that I need at this point in time in my life. being able to go pick my daughters up, like my youngest today. I let her know yesterday, like, I won't be picking you up from patrol. I have to do like this interview, and she understood that because she knows that I'm gonna be there every other day. And so there might be a time that I'm not, but just being able to be dependable for my children, that means everything to me. Being present with them, especially being a single dad right now when I have to, and they're going through this middle school transition, and just knowing that I don't have to sacrifice my children for the work. There'll be other things that I'm willing to sacrifice. Like, I take a pay cut choosing to be here. And then I'm thinking about my future. I'm in the final stage of getting my principal license, and I'm asking myself, is that even what I want to do? Like, it's finding the understanding that I do not have to have it figured out, and then being aware of that and sitting in that whenever I share space with the students that I teach, who are such a crucial stage in their life where they're being bombarded with so much, the same way you are, the same way everybody in this room is, about knowing the next thing or having this next title. And when you understand like your purpose and you sit in that purpose, and then you realize how to like allow it to be a healthy purpose, it allows you to find joy in the present. So me being a 10th grade teacher, but having a 12th grade student say, Mr. AB, can you help me with my world history class? I'm struggling with it. My study hall is this time. Can I come to your class? Or other students who I get to go to because they may be having outside struggles, and I'm able to, share a little bit of whatever I got, and then I'm learning from them in the meantime. Or I'm sitting upstairs with my students and they teaching me how to become a better chess player, or I know that I'm a part of helping them understand how to analyze text, so that whether they're in my AP class or my English 10 class, or they're in a college classroom and they're studying Shakespeare or any great literature, Baldwin, whoever it may be, that they able to hold their own in those spaces, and to know that I was a part of allowing them to feel confident enough to share their ideas, to know that their ideas are valid, to know that they deserve a seat at those tables, black, brown, white, whatever, that gives me joy.
Oh, I knew this was gonna happen. Like I feel you all are getting me so excited right now, and I need to calm down because I know we only have so much time. And as you all, every time you all talk, like 20 questions pop up in my mind. So Dr. Stephens, I know you want to add on to that, and then I have maybe two more questions I just want us to talk about, and then I know we gotta wrap this up. So go ahead, Dr.
So I was going to say, being back in the classroom, so I'm able to teach some courses, and one thing that has been really exciting for me is helping the white students to develop positive racial identity, and because they don't think of themselves in those terms. And I found that out when my first question is, what do you love about your culture? And they really struggle with that. And they're like, and so we talk about that. We talk through that. I'm like, so why is this such a hard question for you? And they're like, well, no one's ever asked me that question before. I've never thought of myself as having a culture. And so just like working through that has brought me so much joy, because I think we do our white students a disservice by not teaching them about their identity and having positive racial identity, and I think we do also disservice by, when we refer to identity, always like assuming that it's students of color, and then like white students don't have an identity. And so that has been one thing that has also like really given me some joy this year, to see that awakening for them. I even had a student who I had last semester, and then I had her again this semester. And so when I posed that question, right away she told the student, she's like, I was where you were last semester. I didn't have an answer, until Dr. Stephens told me that I did have a culture, and started digging deep into what that looked like. So that's another thing that's brought me a lot of joy.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because actually you are helping me go to where I wanted to go next. And before I do that, I just want to acknowledge that what I heard from both of you as it relates to during this time of great challenge and complexity in public education. Like, I heard these two themes kind of bubble up that have allowed you to continue to have joy. It's this idea of like this laser-like focus on students, right, and being student-centered in your approach, because the energy that they bring, right, like that feeds you, right? Because this is, as you all started off, you talked about how this is why you're here. And then the second piece, which I think is really powerful and requires further exploration that we just don't have time for today, is this clear understanding of self. Because when you know who you are, it allows you to persist in ways that maybe it would be more difficult to do without a clear understanding of oneself. And I what I'll say about the student piece, because I think it's so true, and I've observed both of you, right? Abdul, you may not know this, right? But I've walked past your class plenty of times, right? And I'm peeking in and I'm seeing what's happening. And the way that the kids gravitate to you, the way they respond to you, the way they want to be around you, the way that they're engaged in the facilitation of learning is familiar because I see it. I've seen it happen, right? So I see that with Dr. Stephens as well, and I think to myself, well, of course, both of y'all have energy, right? Because these kids are bringing so much energy to your space, and I wonder if you all approached the way that you engaged them differently with that same level of energy could be there. And I think it has a lot to do about the conditions you all set and the love, and they know that you care about them, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can't fake that, right? That's not something you can fake. They know if you care about them, if you believe in them, if you're really out to help them grow in their brilliance, right? And I just appreciate both of you all for doing that on a daily basis. And the last piece, second to the last piece, Dr. Stephens, you talked a little bit about some of the classes you're teaching. Mm-hmm. Because one of the pieces I was going to have us dig into, but maybe for another time, is really around just the erasure of absence of Black teachers, right? What we know is that prior to Brown v. Board of Education, particularly in segregated states, like 35 to 50% of the educators were Black, right? And now in this country, maybe 7% of educators are Black. In the state of Minnesota, I think we have like 1.7% of teachers Black. 0.5 of that being Black males, right? So we are in a crisis type of position. And I know, Dr. Stephens, there's, one of the ways that we as educators are trying to like actually feed this pipeline is by first and foremost, making sure students have a positive educational experience, right? So that this is something that they want to go back to, but also providing them opportunities to learn what it means to be a teacher. And I was just wondering if you would be willing to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing in our concurrent enrollment classes to prepare future teachers.
Well, so thank you. I love teaching those classes. So it's really interesting, too, because I do, and particularly more this semester, but I think I have more students this semester who really weren't thinking about going into teaching. But my whole premise for like kind of recruiting students to take these classes is even if you're not sure, because when I was in high school, I didn't want to be a teacher and it's a second career for me. I was like, even if you're not sure, I still want you to take the class because you have been in this educational system for 11, 12 years, right? So you have a lot of lived experience that you can bring to the table, and you never know the impact that the class will have. And I already have some students who are telling me, I never really thought about teaching, but now I think I might want to go into teaching. I have some Black students who were telling me nobody even told me that I could be a teacher. And so, but now they're like, but now I can see that. And so I think that's what the exciting piece is. And it may not click. They may not think about it right now, but who knows what's going to happen with them 10 years from now after, they get out there and see. So for me, I want them to have an experience of what school should be like. Right? This is what school could be like, where you are centered, where I'm expecting you to do the thinking, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I want to give you the information, and then you decide what you want to do with it, where you're able to ask questions and formulate questions. So where there's like really true learning, and not just schooling. And so that, for me, that is so important, and that's what I'm seeing that's happening in the classes that I'm able to teach.
Oh, absolutely. And I just want to, if I don't say it enough, I just want to express my appreciation for both of you. I continue to be inspired by both of you. I am so excited that our students get an opportunity to know you, learn from you, be in relationship with you. And here's the thing, both of you have said this, you learn from them as well every day, and I'm it just is such an honor to have such amazing educators here in St. Louis Park. And as we close our time together, one of the things that we like to do on the Share the Mic podcast is what we call a mic drop, right? And it's really just an opportunity for guests to share any last words that they would want to share about the topic or just anything.
You can go first. You've already said a lot of mic drops, but you can go ahead and do some more.
Yeah, he did that piece about never, that is so powerful. It's so, what you described about never, ever again being in a place where you can't, and I'm messing your words up, but essentially where you have to leave yourself, like that requires so much wisdom, and it's such a liberating feeling. It wasn't until recently, in my advanced age to where I'm like, I'm seeing that as well, and I've started to get that liberated feeling like, I'm gonna be myself, and if I can't be myself here, then there's another place that will allow me to do that, right? And I think our goal here in St. Louis Park is trying to figure out how do we create a working environment where people can feel like they can be their self at all times, right? So,
yeah, I mean, mistakes, failures, life, pain, hurt, struggle, it brings you there. And I remember I was sitting in therapy, and I was just like, is there a difference between confidence and self-belief and self-worth? And my therapist was like, yeah. And we started exploring fear of abandonment and self-betrayal. And so that's where it came from for me. And it's just continuing to do the work. Like, I'm not there. I'm going to keep practicing and keep learning. But for me, I think I just want my mic drop to just center, first and foremost, the students and the families that I'm fortunate to work with in SLP in our community. Like, I really genuinely love these students so much, and I wish I could go through and name them all individually, but I'm afraid I might leave some out. The way families showed up to conferences, like, I was so excited to do conferences last week, and to just have some families say, like, my child, I don't really usually come to conferences, but my child wanted me to meet you because they love you, and it's like, that just makes my heart feel so full, and my cup is already full on its own, and so it's just constantly overflowing because of my students and their families, and to be so welcomed by this staff who understands what this work is about and who are trying to be better. And we have professional development in the mornings, and to just see people come and like really reflect and be present in those spaces, it means a lot. And to have a leader in Paddock who's incredibly competent and passionate and authentic and cares about the work that you're gonna see all around the building, to have my mentor like right there. I could go to her office. I could get granola bars for kids or for myself. And I to just have this community. I think that I want to center the community. I want to take this little moment to just thank everybody who chooses to work here, who's embraced me, who embraces other staff members, who embraces all of these babies and is trying to get them what they deserve, from our engineers to our deans to our elite, amazing, incredible media center specialists and everything they do. I could go on, but I just really want to thank the community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I think a lot about culturally relevant pedagogy, culturally responsive teaching, and how I've heard that you sacrifice rigor with those. And I 100% disagree, because as I'm able to leverage relationships with my students, then I'm able to then have high expectations because of those relationships. And rigor is definitely not sacrificed at all. So I think when I'm really being culturally responsive to the students, I'm responding to the need that they have to show their brilliance and to be excellent. And so because of those relationships, then I'm able to push for excellence, and then the rigor is right there. So I don't want people to think that like you either have relationships or you either have rigor, because I believe you got to have the relationships in order to be able to have the rigor for the students.
See, why did you have to go and do that? See, that's a whole nother podcast that we have to do at a later time. But I know I'm gonna come back because I see that I can feel it. It touched me too. So I'm gonna try to control myself, because what you're saying is so powerful, and I don't know why. Actually, I think I know a little bit why this is, but for whatever reason, there is this belief that's out there that if you're leading towards racial equity or cultural relevance, that means you must be lowering expectations. And I think what needs to happen is that there needs to be a defining of what we mean when we say racial equity transformation. When we say racial equity transformation, what we mean is high levels of academic excellence for all children, because unfortunately, in the society that we live in today, high levels of academic excellence and access to grade level standards is not the reality for every child, right? So I appreciate you putting that in the space, and I'm actually going to stop because Abdul, I know you want to say something, and then I'm going to get us out of here, because if not, we'll be sitting here for the next 5 hours, because that's how powerful the two of you are. And as you all are going, you get me excited and get my brain racing, and I know I need to end this or we'll never adjourn. So I knew you wanted to say one more thing.
Just to build on what Dr. Stephens said, I think when you take that approach of understanding that those two are interconnected, it's to say that it's just like picture a triangle, and at the bottom left of the triangle you have the teacher, at the right of the triangle you have the student, at the top of the triangle you have the content. Right? So what you do with that triangle is you say that the teacher isn't higher than the student. You eliminate that hierarchy that's rooted in white supremacy and that patriarchal way of thinking of power dynamics. No, we're on the same level field, right? So then what connects us is the content. And if we really center the content, then at the center of the triangle is the relationship. Not every black and brown student listens to hip hop music. Right? Like some enjoy chess and enjoy anime and things that I've never had or experienced, right? You can't think that all black and brown children come from single parent households or who have people who don't believe in them. Nah, we have a lot of black and brown babies and other marginalized identities who have all of that. So if they're in your space, they don't really need that. They don't need you to build them up. They already have people who pour into them all day. What they need is for you to help them grow, help them get to the next point, right? Some students really want that, and all students deserve that.
That's right. All right, we got to stop because we got to stop. But I appreciate the two of you. I really do, and just thank you. Powerful educators here in St. Louis Park. I appreciate you choosing St. Louis Park and the impact that you make on the lives of our students on a daily basis. So thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Share the Mic. I'm Aston Osai, Superintendent of St. Louis Park Public Schools.